Thanks, Beth. A massive manhunt for a shooter in Maine is still ongoing.
Police say the suspect walked into and opened fire at a bowling alley on Wednesday night, then drove to a bar and continued shooting. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest.
An urgent manhunt by flashlight overnight as law enforcement surrounded the last known address of suspected mass murderer Robert Card. It's just one area of intense focus, and until he's found, tens of thousands remain under shelter-in-place orders.
Please stay at home and be safe.
Multiple victims for an active shooter in the town of Lewiston.
Card is suspected of killing at least 18 people and injuring 13 more in a Lewiston bowling alley and a nearby restaurant and bar. Survivors describing the terror.
I just booked it down the lane, and I slid basically into where the pins are and climbed up in the machine and was on top of the machines for about 10 minutes until the cops got there.
Grief-stricken families can't begin to describe the loss.
The world lost a great girl, and I lost a precious daughter.
A family member of the 40-year-old suspect says he struggled recently with acute mental health issues. Card is a longtime Army reservist, and officials tell NBC News he threatened a military base and was sent by his own commanders to a mental health facility in July.
That the yellow flag law should have been triggered.
Authorities looking into why he still had possession of an assault-style rifle, as the community reels from Maine's worst mass murder in history. The number of homicides in a single night approaching what the state usually sees in a year. Now a lifetime of heartbreak for each victim taken. In Lewiston, Maine, Alice Barr, NBC News.
In other news, a Columbia man is now facing murder charges after a deadly stabbing.
KMU8's Madison Ricks is here in the studio to tell us what we know so far about that suspect. Hey, Madison, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Prosecutors charged 22-year-old Alan Muslick with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. He's accused of stabbing his father, 62-year-old Zuffer Muslick, with a kitchen knife. The incident happened on a Medina Drive in North Columbia, that's near Cosmo Park. Police were called out just after midnight yesterday for a death investigation. Alan Muslick reportedly told police he and his father got into a verbal argument that turned physical. That's when he allegedly admitted he made the decision to kill his father. Court documents say when police arrived, they surrounded the home and told Alan Muslick to come outside. He allegedly had blood on his feet and a large bloody kitchen knife in his shorts. Muslick is currently being held at the Fulton State Hospital. Police say the investigation is ongoing. In the studio, Madison Ricks, KMU8 News.
Okay, thanks, Madison. A missing North Carolina girl has been found in Missouri. The girl was found in Kirkwood, outside of a Lowe's, with a 30-year-old man. Police say the man is a sex offender who tried to help her run away from home. St. Louis County prosecutors charged the man with 2 counts of second-degree statutory rape and 1 count each of sexual exploitation of a minor. We have an update to a story we've been following since earlier this year. The mother of a 3-year-old who was shot and killed in North Columbia is filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the alleged shooter. The mother and Larry Brownlee Jr. tried to rush the child to a nearby fire station when they crashed their car. The child was pronounced dead at the hospital. Brownlee was charged with second-degree murder and unlawful possession of a firearm. He's in jail without bond. The mother's lawsuit claims negligent mishandling of a firearm. The Francis Howell School District in St. Charles is proposing a new policy regarding trans students' use of bathrooms and locker rooms. This is according to our NBC affiliate, KSDK. It comes after St. Charles County elected officials sent a letter urging school districts to implement bathroom and locker room policies. The policy requires students to use bathrooms or locker rooms that match the sex identification on the student's birth certificate. It also proposes each school within the district to provide a minimum of 1 single-use restroom that can have signage indicating use by more than one sex. It says that students using the single-use restroom shall not be discriminated against, harassed, or retaliated against by any student or staff member for their choice to use a single-use restroom facility.
A Springfield businessman announced he will run for Missouri governor in 2024. That's according to KY3 in Springfield. Democrat Mike Hamra posted on his Facebook page that he will seek the nomination. Hamra says he's been encouraged to run these past few weeks. He runs the family business of more than 200 locations of Wendy's, Panera, and Noodles & Company restaurants. He says his campaign will focus on issues like strengthening the workforce, helping small businesses grow, and restoring the right for women to make their own reproductive health care decisions. He is the second person to announce a bid for the Democratic ticket after House Minority Leader Crystal Quade announced her candidacy this past summer. An attorney for the Alaska Airlines pilot accused of trying to shut off a plane's engines mid-flight is speaking out. Joseph Emerson's defense says the pilot was not intoxicated when he boarded the flight. Court filings indicate Emerson told officers he took magic mushrooms 48 hours before the incident. Emerson faces 84 state charges of attempted murder. The FBI special agent in charge of the case says it's important to realize what could have happened.
I think what's important here is to recognize how serious of an incident this was, the consequences of what could have happened, and the fact is that these are very serious charges.
Alaska Airlines has relieved Emerson of his duties and service indefinitely.
The State Department says Egypt is ready to process Americans in Gaza for release.
But Hamas is blocking their exit, and one of those Americans, Emily Rauschenberger, grew up here in Colombia. Emily and her father left the U.S. to visit Gaza in September. Her brother says since then, they've moved between 3 or 4 different homes and are currently sheltering in an apartment with more than 20 people. He says he tries to speak with Emily every day, but is worried that communication could be cut off at any time.
There was, a 36-hour period last week where we lost complete contact. And again, that's the huge concern with however this situation progresses, that a point will come where there is no communication, won't know.
Joe says he last spoke to his sister yesterday morning. He says he's waiting for a ceasefire, peace, or anything that can help bring Emily and her family back home. Rescue teams in Gaza continued searching for survivors following intense Israeli airstrikes as the war between Israel and Hamas enters its 21st day. The health ministry in Gaza says as of Wednesday, more than 750 people were killed over the past 24 hours in the war. The Associated Press could not independently verify that death toll, but if true, it would mark one of the deadliest days in the war so far. Meanwhile, Israeli military forces staged a raid across the border deep into Gaza. You can see video of the moment as armored vehicles move through a border zone. According to the Israeli military, forces attacked multiple Hamas targets before withdrawing. NBC News describes it as the biggest land incursion of the current war. Israel is negotiating the release of more than 200 hostages in Gaza, according to the Israel Defense Forces. Qatar's senior negotiator says any escalation in the conflict, though, could jeopardize those efforts.
The U.S. is boosting its presence in the Middle East. The Pentagon says roughly 900 American troops are being deployed to the region to provide more protection for U.S. forces and interests overseas. Israeli military officials say they're preparing for a ground offensive against Hamas following the militant group's fatal attacks on Israel earlier this month. Some leaders of the European Union are calling for a humanitarian pause in the war so that much-needed aid can be brought into Gaza.